Hey everybody, I'm JCB here with the Awesomest, and you're watching the Awesomest Technology. This series of videos will be covering interesting cases of interim technology. Now, because technology by its very nature tends to change all the time, I'm going to take a moment right here to explain what I mean by interim technology. Interim technologies are gadgets and gizmos that were sort of placeholders or stepping stones in between the major innovations that we all know and love. These are not the same as alternative technologies like 3D or curved TVs that, while neat, haven't really caught on. Nor are they just natural evolutions like the way 1080p TVs will someday be replaced entirely by 4K TVs. That's more of a major innovation, a leap forward that eventually becomes the standard. An example of interim technology would be 2K displays for TVs and smartphones, which are a weird sort of half step between 1080p and 4K. These 2K displays will probably only stick around until the price of 4K drops low enough that it can be widely adopted. And that's the kind of thing I'm going to be talking about in this series of videos. Those weird in-between technologies that only survive long enough to be replaced by the next big innovation. They typically have one foot in the present and the other foot stepping into the future. They're just enough of a step forward to be considered different and new, but they also feel safe and familiar. By definition, they're short-lived, transitional technologies that serve their purpose, but are ultimately replaced by the next big thing. Today I'll be focusing on home video technologies that bridged gaps and solved problems that appeared in between the major generations. First up is a VCD and devices like the Terrapin. A precursor to the DVD, VCD stands for Video Compact Disc, and you guessed it, allowed you to put videos on a compact disc. The format was created in 1993, but wouldn't hit its stride until a few years later. Some feature films were released on VCD, usually in 2-disc sets, but ultimately, due to the VCD's lack of copy protection and its standard definition resolution, the VCD was eventually replaced by the DVD. But that wasn't the end of the VCD. In many Asian countries, VCDs are still used for distribution of films, but where the format really shined was home video recording. When DVDs started to become popular and consumers began to purchase DVD players, they still used their old VCRs to record broadcast television. There was, after all, no way to record a TV show on your DVD player. Throughout the lifespan of the VCR, a large community of home recording enthusiasts had grown in every corner of the United States. But as years went on, the price of DVD players dropped while the price of VCRs started to rise. That is, if you could find one at all. Many stores stopped carrying VCRs in favor of stocking the shelves with more DVD players. Add to that the fact that VCRs weren't exactly built to last, and you have a demand for a new era of home video recording. Enter devices like the Terrapin. The Terrapin was a set-top box that attached in between your cable or satellite receiver and your television. It used standard CDRs and allowed you to record digital video of anything on your TV. Sure, it was only a 4:3 aspect ratio, but broadcast television wasn't even offered in widescreen or HD at the time, and the digital picture was still head and shoulders above the quality of VHS tapes. The Terrapin recorded directly to CDRs using the VCD format. It was a great way to record your favorite TV shows or sporting events. It worked exactly like your old VCR, except it recorded onto these thin little discs instead of a big fat VHS tape. DVD players typically supported the VCD format, as did virtually every PC with a CD-ROM drive in Microsoft Windows. This meant you could still share your recordings with friends. It was a perfect alternative to your old VCR. But eventually we'd see the introduction of the TiVo, and VCD, although still supported on most DVD players today, would soon fade away. In some ways, the TiVo is another piece of interim technology. It was essentially another set-top box intended to replace your VCR, allowing consumers to record broadcast television and save it in a digital format. This too would be a short-lived phenomenon as cable and satellite companies soon began incorporating DVRs into their receivers. Because of this integration with the receiver, these new DVRs could record multiple shows on multiple channels in multiple rooms simultaneously. This eliminated the need for a standalone set-top box, and TiVo eventually went the way of the Terrapin. But if I had to guess, I would say DVRs in general will also likely be considered interim technologies within the next few years. As more and more people cut the cable, video-on-demand services have expanded in popularity and content. There will soon be no need to record anything. Cable providers and television networks will be forced to drop the TV schedule business model and adapt to the consumer's desire to watch TV on their own terms. I suspect new episodes of your favorite TV shows will still air on a certain day, but will more closely resemble the release of a new YouTube video by your favorite creator. By the way, there's a subscribe button right down there. Whatever happens, like the Terrapin, the VCD, and the VCR, DVRs have served their purpose and made a nice little name for themselves while there was no other way to accomplish what they were capable of. Ironically, the future of video on demand may also spell the end of DVD's predecessor, the Blu-ray player. I already find myself avoiding the long search through my DVD and Blu-ray collections to find that one movie I'm looking for, only to discover the case is empty and the disc is who knows where. Add to that the boot time of the average Blu-ray player. Okay. Is it starting? Hello? Did I turn it on? Oh, about time. The 10 or so ads and FBI warnings before I can even get to the main menu, and you might as well drive all the way to the theater and watch something new. Oh, right. Never mind. Anyway, it's so much easier to start a service like Netflix or Popcorn Time on my phone and stream movies directly to my Chromecast. Now, I'm not saying Blu-ray is an interim technology. It was and still is a solid standard that stands on its own and offers a huge upgrade from DVD, which brings me to my next piece of interim technology, the DVD upconverter. DVD upconverters, or scalers, became popular when 1080p HD TVs first hit stores. The idea is pretty simple. Your DVD is a resolution of 480i. Your new TV is now 1080p. This often meant that your DVDs played inside of a little black box that did not fill your entire TV screen. Blu-ray and Blu-ray players were released soon after, and one of the major selling points was this full screen resolution. But Blu-ray players and discs, like all new technologies, were expensive, especially when you consider the prospect of replacing your entire DVD collection with Blu-rays. The decision to purchase a Blu-ray player was further complicated by the existence of HD DVD, a competing HD video format that seemed equally likely to win over consumers as the HD standard. Many consumers decided to stick with their old DVDs rather than buy either of the competing high-def players, since there was no way to know which of the new formats would succeed and which would be the next Betamax. While we're on the subject of Betamax, I want to mention that that was not really an interim technology, it was just another example of an alternative technology, something that existed at the same time and offered a similar experience but just didn't pan out in the end. Let's get back to DVD upconverters. So we had consumers with large DVD collections unwilling to change formats but unhappy with the way their movies played on their TV. The answer to this problem was a DVD upconverter. A DVD upconverter basically enlarges the image from its original resolution to a resolution much closer to 1080p. As you can see in this DVD of Independence Day, there is a little trade-off in clarity. Today, virtually all Blu-ray players automatically upconvert DVDs, but the final nail in the coffin was when Sony won the HD war and Blu-ray players came down below the $100 price point. At that point, there was no need to own a separate DVD upconverter. Today you can get a DVD upconverter for around $30 on Amazon. But that's nothing compared to my next piece of interim technology. Sticking with the home video theme, this next piece of technology was so far ahead of its time that it had a hard time connecting with consumers. I am, of course, talking about Divx. Not Divx a video codec. Wait a minute. Do I have these two logos mixed up? One of these is an MP4 video codec, and the other is a failed DVD rental format that only existed from September 1998 to June 1999. That's the one I'm talking about, and I'm pretty sure it's one of these two logos. Divx, or Digital Video Express, was a rental service offered by Circuit City that allowed customers to buy a $4 DVD which they could watch for 48 hours. This is similar to the way movie rentals had always worked up until this point and how Redbox works to this day. The difference was that when the 48 hours was over, you didn't have to return the DVD. It just stopped working. You could then hang on to the disc and pay again to re-rent the film at a later date. This was essentially pay-per-view that you could pause. The DVD player actually connected to the internet through a billing service, and anytime you wanted to re-watch a previous rental, it would just bill your credit card and the disc was active again for another 48 hours. You can also upgrade to unlimited watches, or Divx Silver, the same way Netflix lets you purchase any of their DVDs. While over 400 movies were released on Divx, it wasn't enough to overcome growing internet opposition and a few hurdles to the format that had sprung up. So the idea sounds pretty cool. But you have to remember, this happened at a time when most people just barely purchased their first DVD player, and in order for this service to work, you had to buy a new DVD player that supported this new format. At the time, DVD players were running anywhere from $300 to $400. Then you had to rent the movies, and unlike a normal rental where you could just return it, the fact that you were encouraged to hang on to this disc meant that people chose their rentals more carefully and rented less often. Think of all the terrible movies you've rented over the years. Now imagine they're all a permanent part of your video collection. Your friends and family will come over and see those movies on the same shelves as Citizen Kane and Star Wars. This created this weird gray area where you basically owned the movie and put it on your shelf with box art and everything, but you had to pay every time you wanted to watch it. Divx films were also only available in pan and scan, which is that weird 4:3 format in which the camera artificially shifts to the side in order to follow any action that would otherwise be outside of the frame. People tend to hate pan and scan due to the fact that what you see on screen is often at the discretion of whoever produced the disc. The filmmakers usually have no input on the matter, so the artistic integrity, pacing, and overall tone of the scene is thrown out for the practicality of highlighting necessary information within the allowed space. Consider the image of the Last Supper. Do you care if you only see 6 disciples with Jesus, or do you want to see all 12? Special features were also severely limited on Divx discs, and because Circuit City basically owned the format, no other major retailers really wanted to support it, which is understandable. You don't want to help out the competition. In the end, Divx lasted 6 months and died. The billing system stuck around until 2001 so that people who had purchased Divx DVDs could still play them, but by that point, the public had jumped ship. Fortunately, when the billing service finally shut down, the company did refund all of those Divx Silver purchases that had guaranteed unlimited watches, since once the service was down, those discs became useless. While we're still on the subject of home video, let's talk a little bit about Laserdisc. In some ways, Laserdisc was an alternative technology like Betamax in that it was a direct competitor to VHS. The difference was that while Betamax and VHS were more or less the same, Laserdisc offered much higher quality and was the first video format to appear on an optical disc. It offered stereo sound and almost double the resolution of VHS. It was clearly a step up, but it also existed at the same time, dying off just as DVDs became popular. So while it was a major innovation technology-wise, it was only a half step up from VHS due to the limitations of standard definition televisions at the time. And unfortunately, it never really caught on. Laserdisc paved the way for compact discs and DVDs. The problem was the price. Laserdisc was marketed as a high-end home entertainment medium. There's gotta be a better way to say that.
Gourmet video.
Ah yes, gourmet video. Stop watching those McDonald's quality VHS tapes and come join Leonard Nimoy and I as we indulge in some gourmet video. Although almost 2 million Laserdisc players were sold in the United States and the format was even more popular in Japan, it never quite took hold. And by the time there was an appetite for higher quality video, DVD had arrived. Just in case you were wondering what a comparison of Laserdisc and DVD looks like, let's take a look. Here you can see the difference in quality isn't huge. The level of quality for the time, as well as minor editing differences in some films, explains why Laserdiscs are still collected today. Problems that plagued the format included the lack of recordability, which was always a huge selling point for VHS, a total lack of support in the rental establishments, and of course the price, as I said before. It was almost 10 years before the price of a Laserdisc player went below $500, and the movies were often more than $100 a piece. So while it's arguable whether Laserdisc was an interim technology or simply a mishandled alternative technology, it was definitely a pioneering technology that played an important role in moving films away from magnetic tape and monophonic sound. Because of this, I felt it was worth mentioning here, as I'm sure a lot of people have fond memories of the format in the days before DVD. So those are my favorite pieces of interim technology for home video. If there was something you were expecting me to talk about that I didn't, make sure you leave a comment down below, as I'd love to hear about it. In the meantime, part 2 of this video series will be coming out very soon, in which I'm going to dive deep into mostly forgotten about pieces of interim technology from the past. Make sure you subscribe so you'll be alerted when that video comes out, and until next time, keep being awesome.